Yes. Yeah.
But he has no idea that the way that he's doing it is completely wrong, which is exactly what we do when we decide that we're going to somehow earn God's favor by what we do. It's completely back.
Well, and there's the also that factor or that picture of adoption, right?
Like,
that he took Loki in, and in we're going to talk about the Dark World later, but one of the lines that Loki has in the Dark World, he's having a dialogue about Odin before Odin sends him to the dungeon, and then this is I think this is supposed to happen right after the Avengers, as they're taking him back to Asgard in chains, and he's standing before Odin, and being bitter that the oafish Thor is going to be king, and seeing himself as having a birthright, because he was the son of the king of Jotunheim, and he said, the throne is my birthright, and Odin says, your birthright was to die.
Yeah.
Alone on a cold
rock. I
never
never thought about that either.
And this is the same way that we as selfish people, we have like all of these things that we think we have a right to. And the only thing that we have a right to as fallen human beings is to be exiled from everything that is good.
Our birthright is Adam's sin. That's all we have.
Yep, that's right.
And God offers us something more through unconditional love, and a lot of us, sadly, don't want to accept that.
Yeah, because it means that we have to like own up to the fact that we don't actually have good, like real, genuine goodness in us, and that we have to accept that from outside of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it just all goes back to pride, like I think it is the very most basic of
right, and
pride.
that also goes back into why, like in the Avengers, another facet of Loki being really tragic is he says to Thor, I never wanted the throne. I just wanted to be equal. I think he says that, and it's another one of the things
it is something
where
like
he was trying. I know he says I never wanted the throne. I think he might follow up with just wanting to be equal. Like, it's another one of those tragic things where he feels like he's not worthy to be like considered Thor's brother, or
yeah. There's this line of like self-hatred that's so present there in Loki if you scratch at it just a little bit. Yeah. And that can be another whole thematic discussion, but we need to keep this thing moving. I want to circle back to something that you said about Captain America, how you appreciated what he stood for and what he didn't stand for, and I guess this also just gets back to Thor and not so much the Avengers, but I do want to touch on it real quick. Is that when SHIELD shows up in Thor, like we get a look at how SHIELD is not an unambiguously positive force in the lives of everybody with whom it intersects. Like, they basically just come in, in Eric Selvig's words, like a bunch of jackbooted thugs, and like totally steal all of the the life's work of Selvig and Jane Foster. And so I think it's cool that there is this. Man, and this just this is an example of how cool and nuanced and how much care is being put into these stories. That it's not just black and white, good guys versus bad guys, although it kind of is. Like there is an unambiguous like good that is being fought for.
Right.
Everything that's being done in the name of that good is not always unambiguously good.
Yeah. And I think where you were going with this possibly is Captain America is the one who questions SHIELD in the Avengers. He's one of the big dissenting voices of like, should we really be doing this way? Like the surveillance and things like that. And I think that's another cool thing in the Avengers is like, this is the first time that we really see SHIELD in full, like in full light.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, man, that the scene of the helicarrier taking off out of the water, that is super
yeah.
awesome.
Another thing I like is I'd sort of forgotten how great of a character Natasha Romanoff is, and they really do some great characterization in here. That scene where she's being interrogated, and Colton calls on the phone, and
that's a great reversal of
Yeah, it's
expectations
like,
there. When she gets on the phone, he's like, "I'm working. What do you want?" This idiot is giving me everything.
And he's like, I can give her
And
anything.
then the way she kind of sneers at him when he's all puzzled.
And then also like how she, and this is like, this speaks to just her intellect, that she was able to play Loki.
And I love how that interrogation
Loki,
scene at the beginning foreshadows that scene with
yeah,
Loki.
Anybody who is that good that can deceive Loki into like showing his hand is pretty darn good.
Well, and again, it's just taking advantage. Like, again, it's always going to be his downfall, like the pride and the hubris that Loki has, that he thinks he's just on top of everything.
Yeah.
And she totally subverts that and plays it to her own advantage.
And going back to what you said about at the end of Thor, Loki being totally undone, I think maybe you're right. And that actually, there's more evidence for that, in that he ends up at Thanos, and he ends up basically like he had nothing left. The only reason he had any power is he gets this staff from Thanos.
Right.
And he was actually being played by Thanos. Although things didn't go the way Thanos intended.
His way.
Yeah. So that's more evidence that it's like Loki was kind of at the end of his rope, willing to do anything, make deals with anybody to sort of get back on top of things.
Yeah. Yeah, man, there's so many great things about Avengers. I mean, we could be here for hours and hours talking about all of the awesome things about Avengers, but there were a couple of parts that just like I was inwardly cheering like when I was seeing this for the first time. I love it when Captain America shows up to confront Loki in Germany and says, "You know, the last time I was in Germany and saw one man standing above everyone else, we had a disagreement."
Yeah. Captain America has some good lines, like...
Yep, and then, go ahead.
Well, you're probably going to say this one, but when he's going to essentially stop Thor and Iron Man from fighting, and I think it's Black Widow that says, like... Are you sure you're going to do this? He's a god. And he's just like, there's only one god, ma'am. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
Yep. That was so great. I love it. And then at the end of, back of the thing that I was talking about, when they're in Germany, Iron Man shows up and Captain America has basically subdued Loki. They subdue Loki together, and he's standing on him with the repulsors trained on him. And says, "Make a move, reindeer games."
Yeah.
Like, Stark has so many of the best lines in this movie. Like, reindeer games is hilarious. Like, towards the end when they're in the battle and he's gonna take Hawkeye up to the be the lookout. Yeah, he says, "Better clench up, Legolas."
Yes.
Yeah, good stuff. And again, like, this is all like, Joss Whedon is a genius. And if anybody, like, we're going to have to do, I hope to do a whole episode about his work with Buffy and Angel and Firefly.
That was one I forgot about. Yeah, I was a fan of Firefly, so I was like, yes, man. Avengers will be.
That is such a tragic loss to all of fandom that Firefly didn't last longer, because that is absolutely such an amazing show. But so Joss Whedon's handiwork is just on full display in this movie, and especially in the writing and in the way that, like, he loves to kill off the people that you love most. I heard a joke. Do you know who Stephen Moffat is? Of course you do. You're a Doctor Who fan. So there's a joke that Joss Whedon, Stephen Moffat, and George R.R. Martin walk into a bar, and everyone you've ever loved dies.
Yeah, that's funny. The great thing about Stephen Moffat, though, is and like the Doctor Who thing, which we should do something on Doctor Who, is that like
Yeah, we will.
is that like is people die but they don't really die. Like there's
Well, right. It's all time
there's
travel,
always
so
like a
nobody really needs to die.
So
anyway.
like one of my favorite companions, like she died, but the Doctor brought her into this state of being in between the last and second to last second of her life indefinitely. Right. So like she's basically immortal.
She's suspended in time right before she dies.
Exactly. But she can move around and do stuff. Yeah, so there's that. Yeah. Or there's like two versions of some people because of parallel universes or whatever. Anyway.
Yeah. But the thing I was going to get to, like one of my favorite moments in this movie that just is, and I've mentioned this a couple episodes ago when I was talking to Aaron Welty, when Phil Coulson is dying in Nick Fury's arms, and then he says, "It's okay, boss. It was never going to work unless they had something to
avenge."
And that is so great. It's brilliant because you've been led right there.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't even have to say it. It's so excellent, and I love it.
You know, and that one of the themes that runs through a lot of Joss Whedon's work is this whole, like, a lot of his stuff is sort of like a coming of age or growing up, but learning how to work together with people is a big theme that it's kind of like goes through Buffy and goes through a lot of his stuff. So him doing the Avengers was perfect because that was one of the big themes in this movie, right? Was like taking a team of people who'd never worked together before and have huge differences, like we can already see immediately.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually a line that Loki had in the very first trailer.
Yeah.
As he says, "How desperate must you be that you would look to such lost creatures to defend you?"
Yeah, and like immediately Rogers and Stark clash. And it's almost like foreshadowing, you know, what's going to happen later in Civil War, where it's like, and I didn't realize that. Like, when Civil War came out, I was like, you know, what could they possibly be fighting about amongst each other? You know? and I remember that, like, they immediately had, like, a clash between Captain America and Iron Man. And so I like that that's one of the big themes is, like, you know, bringing these people together that don't trust each other and have a lot of differences and completely different backgrounds and turning them into a team, you know, via the crucible of, you know, hardship and loss.
And alien
invasion, yeah. Yeah. That always makes things more interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of alien invasion, the Chitauri biology is fascinating to me.
Okay, go on that. I'm interested to hear what you, as a real scientist PM, have to say about Chitauri
biomechanical.
Biology.
So
is it though, or is it just like cybernetic?
I don't know. That's the thing. It's like it's really ambiguous, which I like that, you know, they never really explain it. But I think you're right. Well, I don't know. Biomechanical might be like the same thing as cybernetic to me, but
no. See, biomechanical is different because biomechanical is like what you see in terms of what the xenomorph does in Alien. Like all of that like architecture, like sort of the organic stuff that's going on with the xenomorph in Alien. That's biomechanical. So that would be distinct from cybernetics, which is like technology in like melded with.
See, and I don't know if it's cybernetic or biomechanical.
Yeah. Well, here's the cool thing about the Chitauri. Okay, we're gonna do sort of a semi deep dive into Marvel lore here. But in the Ultimate line, which was sort of a reboot and reimagining of the big complicated history of the Marvel